Pharaoh's Servant. Not as impactful as the last couple sets, but you'll see this top card here. Very impactful. It's a secret rare. I don't really expect any of us to have it. Doesn't mean we won't. Josh has things like Man-Eater Bug and Monster Reborn, so it's not out of the realm of thought. Parasite. God, I hope nobody plays this card, because seeing that and trying to figure that out on Dueling Book would be a nightmare. Like, if you thought us trying to resolve Ceremonial Bell was a pain, imagine us trying to get this card. Chain Destruction isn't bad. I don't know if anybody would play it if they got it. Time Seal is banned, but really for reasons that we're not going to run into. Gift of the Mystical Elf is good for life gain. Dust Tornado is good back row removal. Call of the Haunted is good. These are all like high rarity cards. There aren't really as many impactful commons in this set. Enchanted Javelin is kind of like a negate attack if they're attacking directly. This Ceasefire is okay for burn. Light of Intervention is fine if you're not playing flip monsters. Noblemen of Crossout and Noblemen of Extermination are two very good cards. Crossout, obviously better than Extermination, but I would take either one. Same with Premature Burial. Shallow Grave is actually pretty good for my deck. Prohibition's not bad. Honestly don't know what I would call if I pulled it. Morphing Jar number 2. We get some 1700 beaters. Like Darkfire Soldier 1 and 2. Sky Scout, formerly known as Harpy's brother, is in this set. He's another good 1800 beater. Mishazure is good for spot removal if you lose a card. Solemn Wishes, excellent for life gain. Cold Wave is great to finish out a game. Fairy Meteor Crush. Good for piercing. Magic Drain, Gravity Bind. It starts to introduce some really strong traps into the game that we just didn't have before. Like before, if we set a trap, it was likely a spell that we were just getting out of our hands. Now, if it's a set card, it could actually be something impactful. Thousand Eyes Restrict. I don't think any of us can make it, but it would be good for later formats. 4-starred Ladybug of Doom is probably at the point that it would be pretty solid, because a lot of our monsters are level 4. Goblin Attack Force is excellent because they can beat over Jirai Gumo. You would probably lose it next turn, but at that point it served its purpose. Gearfried the Iron Knight is pretty good. This set does have the Insect Barrier and DNA Surgery lock. I really hope nobody ends up playing it. I really hope that my pulls aren't bad enough that I'm tempted to play it. And of course, Imperial Order. We of course will be playing it pre-errata, which would make it even more broken. We'll see if anybody actually manages to pull this card. But in the meantime, let's get on to our pulls. Alright, so first things first, we unfortunately don't get 3 packs this week. We just get the 1 from Spell Ruler. So let's flip them up and see a Crab Turtle. And a second upstart that we can't use. Alright, that's fine. Add that to the collection. But here we go, Pharaoh's Servant, 24 packs. Let's see if we can get anything useful, or if we're just going to be throwing 3 random cards into Dust Tornado. Alright. I will take that. Finally some form of back row removal. Like, Burn is interesting. Soldier. Probably tackle it. I mean, it's like earlier. Back scout, but they can hurt. Gravity Bind is good for Saul. There's a cold wave. Another side scout. 4-star Lady Bug Doom. I think that's the first one. Good listen. They were Prohibition. Second Gravity Bind. Pretty sure that's 3 Demonic Burn. Grave Robber. Not excellent, but also not terrible. Considering that they have cards that I don't. Imperial Order. I will take that any day of the week. Oh man, that's huge. Is it here for Iron Knight? Calibrave. Another Magic Drain. Alright, we might actually be doing an overhaul here. And I'm kind of excited about that. So let's take this all over to DB and see what I can do. Alright, so this is what we ended up with. It was a mass overhaul, just like I thought it was going to be. And I will not complain. So let's go through this. We got 3 4-star Ladybug of Doom. Still don't really have anything that can naturally swing over Jirai Gumo or Dark Elf, but this takes care of them in its own way. The Barrel Dragon is still here. If I can get it onto the field, it is nuts. Cyberjar, just broken card. No reason to not play it. Gearfried is good. I think Kyle was playing Germinfection before, and stuff like Paralyzing Potion still exists, so he's immune to stuff like that. Hane is still a good bounce. Karibo is still good for protection, Addition of Faith. I have plenty of power spells. The Songin can still search 10 cards out of the deck. 7-colored Fish is still here because it's still an 1800 beater, but now he actually has backup in the form of 3 of each Darkfire Soldier and 3 Sky Scout. Kept the 2 Giant Soldiers Stone, decent attack stat, and the 2k wall is nice. Cold Wave, because I'm playing more aggro now, so I might be actually be able to swing per game. Confiscation, busted card, play it. Dark Hole, same thing. Fissure is still really good for spot removal. Raigeki, Rush Recklessly, again. I still can't natively swing over some of these bigger monsters. So this just really comes in handy for that. Swords of Revealing Light. I'm sure there will be times where I just need to stall for a few turns. Tribute to the Doomed, spot removal. I'm actually playing Upstart now that I can deal damage to the opponent. Dust Tornado for back row removal. Grave Robber. Because again, they have spell cards that I don't. Pot of Greed being one of the biggest ones. If I could use this to get like a Pot of Greed, a Raigeki, a Dark Hole, Josh's Monster Reborn, I will gladly take the 2000 to gain that kind of advantage. Of course, we're playing the Imperial Order. Yes, I'm playing a lot of spells, but with us using it pre-errata, it's just a 1-turn spell negate if I need it to be. And then 2 Magic Drain for spell negates. Most of us have Raigeki or Dark Hole. They all have Pot of Greed. Josh has the Monster Reborn. Caleb at least has Tribute to the Doomed. This would be really good for if they don't have another spell in hand, or they just don't care enough to force that through. The side deck changed a little bit. We're still doing the 2 Unhappy Maiden, in case we just really need some defense. Block attack, I feel like a broken record, but again, for the big beaters. Eternal Rest, I'm not sure if they're all still going to be on equips at this point, but I'd rather keep it in since I don't have anything else that screams at me that it needs to go in. Kept the Giant True Nade in the side. Cold Wave kind of does the same thing. If I feel like I need it, I can definitely side it in for like the upstart. The 2 Paralyzing Potion, I moved to the side. Earfried is there now. He is a super, so I don't know if any of us will have more than one. But it just doesn't seem as powerful anymore. The 2 Prohibition in the side, I'd rather not main deck this, because I don't really know of any one card outside of like Jiragumo that I could just throw this down and call block. And I think I have enough ways to deal with the big beaters that I shouldn't have to call those with this. But if there is a card that comes up, then I'm like, alright, if that resolves, I'm dead. Then I can bring these in. And then I kept the 3 Robin Goblin here in the side. I don't know if they'll come in handy, but I'm playing bigger monsters now, so I might actually be able to use the card effect. I still have the 3 cards sitting here in the Fusion deck, just because why not? It's not like I have anything else important to play there. But yeah, so this is what we're taking in this week. I got my first round matchup against Caleb for the rematch from last week's finals. Hopefully this can get me past him. I'll see you in the duel. Alright, so here's the thing. I went to edit these videos and realized that anybody who was over Discord, so in other words, anybody but me, was desynced in their audio by probably like 5 to 10 seconds. It was just straight up unwatchable just because of that. So the only thing I can do here is to commentate basically from here on out until we can figure out a solution for this, which we are working on. I'm just going to be commentating. I'm going to try to get like Josh and Caleb and Kyle to help out, whether that's them commentating an entire episode or them just coming over and sitting here with me to do it. But regardless, this is Pharaoh's Servant, round 1, me against Caleb.
Hey Mom, Sasha Gordon. And I found my tablets and
that trap hole of his is just devastating. And I've said it to him a few times. It can just set me back so far. Right, Caleb?
Right.
I'm just recording the audio. Ends up forcing me to just set 2 and pass. I think this was right after I had overhauled my deck from the Shield and Sword variant to more of just like a good stuff beater type deck. 3 of each Darkfire Soldier, the 3 Sky Scout, I think were in this one. Yep. Speak of the devil. He's just going to hit me for 31, because again, that trap hole. But he's playing 1650s, I'm playing an 1800. So I'm going to use that to my advantage to get over one of them. Just pass the turn back to him. Apparently, last week's video, by the way, just quick tangent, Cold Wave, very strong card. This pause here is me deciding if I want to negate it or not, which I think I end up doing. Yeah, with the Imperial Order, which we are playing pre-errata. But so, in last week's video, there was a comment by a Triple X channel that had a timestamp in it, and then I believe just said nice. Apparently the timestamp was Caleb summoning Whiptail Crow. It seems like a bot account of some kind. But so he's gonna crash the 7-colored fish into the Sky Scout. Hit me for 1650. I'm just gonna let the Imperial Order go, I believe, because I'm pretty low on life, and this really isn't that big of a situation for me. Just normal summon Darkfire Soldier, swing over the fish. Still the Giant Soldier of Stones in there, which either come up in this episode or the next one. Being a level 3. Or being under 1500 attack. I'm gonna get over the Jirai Gumo with a Rush Recklessly. I believe he called that one correct, because he's very good at that. He's going to pass it back to me. I'll set a couple, hit him for 1700. I do apologize with the audio issues. You're not going to have the sped up speech anymore. At least until we can get this figured out. I am using Audacity right now to record audio for the first time in a very long time. He's going to bring out Summon Skull, get rid of my Darkfire Soldier, and kind of clear my board, but I pretty much just do the same thing to him and pass it back. Fissure is still really strong. I think it wasn't until just recently. Spoiler, I'm recording this after we've already gotten past... I think we're currently working on Magician's Force. And Fissure is still strong. It's just good for spot removal. Like if they have like a Summon Skull in Caleb's case, or like the Gate Guardian pieces for Josh, if that's what they're sitting on, you just Fissure and it gets rid of it. I'd honestly say it was stronger than Tribute to the Doomed because it doesn't require the discard. Oh my god, the Nimble Momungas. All of us but Caleb hate these things. He's essentially playing with 11,000 life points if we swing into all three. And honestly, I've heard the word tempo thrown around with Yu-Gi-Oh! Here and there, especially with like the early game. And his deck just plays so much tempo, like whether it's on purpose or not. Because now I'm going to have to find a way to clear whatever else he's summoning. And like I could Tribute to the Doomed one of them to get rid of it without the life point gain, but it's just not worth it. Swinging the Magician of Faith, he'll grab a Fissure back, which isn't really doing that much right now because of the face-up Giant Soldier. It would just clear that. But I don't know if he had any better targets in Grave at the time. The Momungas also mean that games against him tend to take a while. And I'm not the greatest at vamping. So if I go quiet here and there, just know it's not really on purpose. Piece of heads up info here for Noblemen of Extermination. you're going to see a lot where somebody will activate that, and I'll activate... For some reason, they tend to hit Magic Drain with it a lot. I'll activate Magic Drain just so I don't lose my other copy. Also, if I'm remembering the text correctly, Nobleman of Extermination says to destroy and banish that card, which, because of Yu-Gi-Oh's weird wording rules, means that if you activate the card in response, it's no longer the same card. So it would just kind of fizzle. Confiscation's useless here. So I think I'm just trying to decide what to do to clear his board. And actually get in for some damage. The confiscation's likely going to be useless from there on out. So I just use it as a discard fodder for Tribute to the Doomed. Fissure the Sky Scout. I call it Harpy's Brother. That's what it used to be called. Which I think I talk about in the opening here. Get in for 18, set a Hain, and wish him good luck. And of course, it's a Pot of Greed off the top. And a Hinotama, which I think is finally out of his deck. I'm going to swing into the face down, which of course is a 2k wall at this point. Starting to see fewer of those in Pharaoh's Servant, but they're still present. I'm going to get in for a good chunk of damage here, and I think this is pretty much game. So Magician of Faith set. He's going to swing over the Hain for a good chunk of damage, but I can just flip the Magician of Faith, get the Fissure, and get in for what's left. Man, I might just make, like, the entire... Yeah, so I took game 1 there. Started game 2. 4-star Ladybug of Doom, at least at this point, was very good against Caleb's deck. He was running a lot of 4-star high attack monsters that I likely just couldn't get over. But the 4-star Ladybug of Doom could act as like a Raigeki of sorts and just clear the board. So instead of normal summoning Darkfire Soldier and risking him running it over, I set the 4-star Ladybug of Doom, thinking, well, if he summons something to attack, at least it'll probably be a 1-for-1 trade. Instead, he plays a conservative, sets 2, sends it back to me. So now it's my turn to go on the offensive. It's gonna swing right into the face down. And of course it's the Momonga. Oh, he goes up to 9,000, gets 2 more. It's just such a pain in the butt card to play around. It's like you have to attack, but then that happens, and it's just such a hard punish. So then they also get set face down, so you can't even clear them with like a fissure. I think I'm just waiting on him to decide on his play. Yep, and there's the Jiraigumo. It's kind of been outclassed. It kind of gets outclassed later on by Giant Orc and Goblin Attack Force. Looks like he called it. Oh, wrong. Okay. I apologize, by the way. There's really, like, no way for me to visually tell because he's calling it in Discord. So if I'm a little slow on if he got the call right or wrong, that's why. But I'm just going to send it back to him. I have the 4-starred Ladybug set. I'm going to Magic Drain the Cold Wave. Which I think he forces through with the Soul Release. But he swings into the 4-star and just has to pass it back. The Raigeki is pretty nice, but it's not like the Momongas are a threat. I think I'm waiting until he has a bit more of a board presence. But now he's going to go on the offensive with the Squirrels, which I'm going to take care of with the Raigeki. For anybody that this hasn't been made abundantly clear to, by the way, I am the only one playing without Pot of Greed. And I don't think there's a way for me to change that. He's going to play his own Raigeki, hidden for 1650. And Sky Scout off the top is very nice. I was waiting to see if this was a trap hole, but it doesn't look like it. I think we exchange Rush Recklessly's. Yeah. So he's going to activate his that's on the field. I'm going to activate mine that's in the hand. And basically just cancel each other out. He's going to Mishizure, which, if a monster is sent from your field to the graveyard, you can send, or you can destroy, I think, one of your opponent's monsters. Sky Scout is just all over this episode. It's a common 1800 attack monster. That just kind of like set a new bar for like our normal summon. Going from like LOB to here, our normal summons went from Urabi at 1500 to Sky Scout at 1800, and even like the more common ones like the Darkfire Soldiers were 1700 now. But yeah, he's gonna take game 2. I just couldn't draw into anything to get over his monsters. I'm going to make him go first. For those of you keeping track, Caleb and I tend to end up in the finals against each other a lot. It's really not so much like a card pool thing. Because while I have stuff like the Imperial Order, I think I have like Giant Trunade. I don't really think I have a ton. I have Confiscation. I don't think I have like a ton of power cards that they don't. I know I have Raigeki and Dark Hole, but most of them have at least one or the other. They all have Pot of Greed. We all have our own power cards. So I'm sure at some point here it's going to even out and like I'll start getting knocked out in round 1 for a few episodes. And go on a losing streak. I'm sure the same thing will happen to Caleb at some point. But like Kyle is still getting back into the game. He doesn't he's still relearning how to deck build. And especially with these earlier sets, it's a lot of good stuff decks rather than like a cohesive theme. And him and Josh in particular are trying to go for a cohesive theme, whether that be like burn or mill or like stall. And you just don't have enough cards at this point to facilitate strategies like that. Whereas Caleb and I are just playing good stuff. Like, if it's a good card, it's going in a deck. I think it was last episode where I tried like the burn strategy with Chain Energy and Gravekeeper's Servant, and it just or it was either last week or it's coming up. But at this point in the card game, stuff like that just wasn't cohesive enough. As you can see, I'm just kind of like taking him down fairly quickly. I got a handful of monsters, and it looks like he does too. I just happen to be drawing into the outs to his monsters. Luckily for us, he called that one right. I'm going to Confiscation to see his hand. And you can guess what I'm going to get rid of here. Jirai Gumo. He doesn't want to pay half, so he's just letting me set and pass. He's finally going to bring out a monster that can attack without paying life points. And he's going to get hit for 350, which leaves him at 75. And I have nothing to swing into the Whiptail Crow outside of like Barrel Dragon. But I also know that he has Trap Hole. And I really didn't want to get punished for a Trap Hole Barrel Dragon. But of course, here's the Momongas. It's going to put him back up to 2,075. Once again, chaining the Magic Drain to the Nobleman of Extermination. Because there's no real point in forcing the Extermination through. Like, you're getting rid of the card that you wanted to get rid of. Looks like I'm going to fissure the Sky Scout. Or at least try to, yeah. Flip up the Hane to bounce the monster back. And then go for the Barrel Dragon for game. And I think that actually seals it up to put me into the finals. You can only play around cards for so long before you just have to try to push something through. So now we're on to Josh against Kyle. I'm honestly trying to remember what Josh was playing at this point. Kyle's been pretty consistent with like Gravekeeper's Servant, Toll, just like Burn, Stall. Josh showing off the Dark Elf that he got. It's a 2k attack, 4-star, that you have to pay 1,000 life points to declare an attack with. That's right, Kyle also was playing Equip spells, because he was kind of in the same situation as me, where he doesn't really have a lot of stronger monsters, but he also pulled a lot of equips. So he decided to make up for his lower attack totals with stuff like Malevolent Nuzzler. So that is now a 3,000 attack Ryukushin powered Malevolent Nuzzler gives your monster 700 extra attack points. And then if it's sent to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to put it on top of your deck. I was very surprised to see Josh playing Witch's Apprentice. It buffs dark monsters by 500, which makes it natively 1050 instead of 550. But then Share the Pain, it made sense why you normal summoned it like that. We're just into a set pass game here. Kyle's trying to build up monsters on the field, and I think Josh just couldn't draw into any. Which is kind of like a recurring problem for him. That's right. So Kyle accidentally stumbled into Clown Control. I can't remember if this was the first episode or not, where he was playing it. But he just decided to play them because they looked like good cards, which in this format, they're really not bad. But he inadvertently played Clown Control for a bit. Caleb and I are much bigger students of the game. Like, we'll watch stuff on YouTube, we'll do research. Whereas Kyle and Josh are more like casual players. It doesn't make any of us better or worse than the other. It's just different styles. So, like, I was watching this game and I threw out the term Clown Control to Kyle and Josh, and neither one of them had a clue what I was talking about. Like, they just don't know about the terms for the different decks throughout the history. Kyle was playing Ground Collapse, which it took us a while to explain to him that it only counted 2 zones. It wasn't 2 zones on each field. Which, if we are getting that ruling wrong, let us know down below. All of us but Kyle have always been under the assumption that you just pick 2 zones, those 2 zones can't be used. We understand his logic of, well, why would you ever pick zones on your side then, so why wouldn't it just say your opponent's field? But this is also old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Wording didn't always make sense. I do believe this was the first set for Cyberjar. What?
Is there still a donut left for me in the bag?
Yeah, it's over there. But there's the Mahavilo. There's a Crass Clown. Mahavilo is good in a deck that runs a lot of equips. It gains 500 attack for each equip spell on it. I'm just going to let you enjoy this real quick while I hydrate.
I'm gonna get a drink too. I'm gonna get a drink. Can I get some water, guys? Remember, I always keep hydrated. Yes. There's just one on the table. It's empty. That's good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did not need this. This isn't cold enough. I never need ice cream, so I don't.
So Kyle's ended up with a Summoned Skull on the field, which is just going to end up going back to his hand, I think, with the Hain. Yeah. Kyle was very picky with Ground Collapse about what zones he wanted locked, which at this point in the game doesn't really matter. Like, column placement wasn't a thing. Mech Knights are nowhere near even being a thought. Mystic Plasma Zone buffs dark types by 500 attack, but then takes away 400 defense. Invitation to a Dark Sleep, I think is the name of that card. I think it's when it's summoned, when it's normal summoned, it's kind of like an Altergeist Conqueror. It targets a monster, and that monster has its effects negated and can't attack. Regardless, it nullifies the Maha Vilo. There's Kyle's field spell with Yami. We are playing with some kind of like mixed rules here, just from like things that I've seen online of different progression formats. I decided to keep the ability to have 2 field spells up. I don't really see field spells being an issue like too far into the future here. They kind of lose their luster for a while. Like, buffing your monster by 200 doesn't really do that much in the grand scheme. There's the Summoned Skull back again. Yeah, Invitation to Dark Sleep. The selected monster can't attack. So it's not negated, but it can't attack. But the Summoned Skull is going to take care of that monster there. As you can see, Josh pulled Banisher of the Light, which is an on-field macrocosmos. Anything that's sent to the graveyard is banished instead while it's face up. It is a 2k wall, which is pretty good. And Josh just concedes there.
Wait, are you playing against someone? Is a random person?
No.
Who's it?
I'm recording the audio.
Oh, is it video?
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry.
So they're just going to be in a set and pass back and forth here. Swords of Revealing Light's going to flip up the Kisai Tai, which makes it basically a vanilla. It has to be attacked while it's face down for the effect to go off. But it's just a really long waiting game to start out game 2. Kyle's just going to build up his field of monsters while he waits for swords to expire. I do actually have this sped up. I made a joke with a friend about Swords of Revealing Light being basically swords of 3 times speed. There's another one of cross out on another Kisai Tai. Kisai Tai, when it's attacked, when it's face down, equips itself to the attacking monster. And then during each of the Kisai Tai controller standby phase, I believe, they gain life points equal to half the attack of the monster. Robin Goblin is an interesting card. It's just kind of like a white magical hat as a trap. If you do battle damage, your opponent discards a random card. There's a Ground Collapse again. Like I said, Kyle's basically playing like stall with just enough attackers to close out the game. Meanwhile, Josh is playing like almost like an early version of Monarchs. Like it's a lot of tribute monsters. Can you do that down, bud?
Yes, Zach.
Thank you. There's the Unhappy Maiden. It's like an early battle fader. Cyberjar resolving thanks to Josh's stop defense. Josh has so many hollows, like from earlier sets. It's just kind of like crazy. The Witch's Apprentice is actually debuffing the Mahavilo right now by, I believe, 400. I think early on it's mostly buffed by 5, debuffed by 4. But I could be wrong. But they are just kind of at like a stalemate right now. Josh has some mystery cards set in the back, which honestly, probably just a lot of spells. As you can see, he even sets his field spell. And Kyle's just trying to get through the monsters. Surprise, surprise, it's a Mystic Plasma Zone. So his Witch gets another 500. So it can actually get over the Mahavilo now. It's actually at 1550. And now it has a Malevolent Nuzzler. Like I said, it's probably just all spells sitting back there. Minus like the Dust Tornado and I think the Fairy's Hand Mirror that he got off of Cyberjar. Which Fairy's Hand Mirror is an interesting card. I just don't know what it would be good on. Like, I guess you could use it when you would activate like a Malevolent Nuzzler, or your opponent would, and move the target to one of your monsters. But here he initially played it because he thought that it countered Fissure. But Fissure doesn't target, it just destroys a card. Because for those of you that aren't aware, in Yu-Gi-Oh, if a card doesn't say target, it doesn't target. Wording in Yu-Gi-Oh is such a huge thing. And I really wish it wasn't. Like, it just makes for some really weird situations. There's a Mishizure taking out the Unhappy Maiden. Dream Clown tributed to bring out Summon Skull. The Hane puts back the Summon Skull. Called the Haunted. Again, Josh with the crazy hollows. He also has Monster Reborn. I think he's like the only one out of us that has access to Monster Revival. White Magical Hat equipped with 2 Malevolent Nuzzlers. Which Josh is actually going to put one of the Nuzzlers on his Suijin. Dust Tornado is going to take out the Paralyzing Potion that had been put on Suijin. Pot of Greed's going to draw him 2 more cards. Some of these early cards were just busted. I mean, that's why they're on the ban list. She's going to Monster Reborn the Dream Clown to sacrifice for the Shadow Ghoul. And I think that's actually the end of game 2. not quite sure what the pause was here. Unless they're trying to figure out Shadow Ghoul's attack. But yeah, that's the end of game 2. So they also go to a game 3. Josh's normal turn 1 play. Set as much of his hand as he can in pass turn. Kyle gets to open with a Pot of Greed. Must be nice. Set the Gravedigger Ghoul. And just like I said, just a consistent problem with Josh's decks. He just doesn't seem to have enough lower level monsters. Magician of Fate's going to recycle the Pot of Greed. White Magical Hat's going to rip a card out of Josh's hand, which happened to be the Invitation to a Dark Sleep. Josh just going to try to get anything going here. Dark Elf can swing over either one of those if he wants to pay 1,000 life points. And now it's at 2,500, so it's bigger. It's as big as a Summon Skull. Gravekeeper's Servant, I haven't touched on yet, but it's a pretty interesting card for like Playground Yu-Gi-Oh! In order to declare an attack, you have to mill a card off the top of your deck. And it does stack. So like if you have 3 on the field, your opponent has to mill 3 every time they declare an attack. Which does kind of suck. So we're going to trade... Looks like they're going to trade Mishra's Arrays here. Kyle's going to destroy the Dark Elf off of his, and then Josh is going to destroy the White Magical Hat off of his. I think Kyle's trying to put that back on top of his stack. We are not perfect. You'll see misclicks galore. Especially on my part, because it took way too long for me to realize what was causing a slowdown for me on Dueling Book. But Kyle's just going to swing in there with Mahavilo, and if I remember right, that's pretty much game. Yeah, draw phase, Witch's Apprentice. If you do it in your draw phase, it doesn't count. I'm joking. We're all just terrible at changing phases. And sending cards to the grave. I think Kyle's trying to figure out how to end the game right here, which I'm pretty sure he does. It's just a Witch's Apprentice. His Mahavilo is getting debuffed by 400 or 500. He normal summons the Cyber Jar, which I think actually leaves Josh alive. Yeah. So, we all have a habit of trolling Kyle and killing him with the weakest monster possible. I think Josh has already killed him with a Hain. So he was trying to return the favor by killing Josh with a Cyber Jar. and it just didn't end up working. He still takes the game because Josh just can't draw a monster to save his life. So it ends up being me against Kyle in the finals for Pharaoh's Servant. Rock, paper, scissors, not too important here. We don't draw if we're going first. So going second is usually better. Just because there's not a whole lot of setup to be done. Like back row at this point still isn't that big of a deal. Like, it's annoying, but it's not game ending. Would I've liked to have the magic drain for the Gravekeeper Servant? Yeah, probably. But it's not really that big of a deal. I'm gonna bring out the Sky Scout. As far as I remember, Kyle doesn't have like a trap hole. I think Caleb's the only one of us that does. But I'm just gonna mill a card to destroy that Dream Clown. Ends up being a fissure. I already have enough destruction in my hand that I'm not that concerned. Paralyzing Potion is annoying enough, but it's not too bad considering I have Cyberjar. And as you've probably noticed by this point, I'm not afraid to play like a long game. I'll clear the field here with Dark Hole, just so I can get in with the Sky Scout. I figure if I'm going to have to pay to attack, I want the attacks to count as much as possible. Like if I'm going to have to pay 500 due to toll or mill a card because of Gravekeeper Servant, I don't really want to be swinging into a face down and passing every turn. I'd rather wait it out, find like a Dark Hole or a Geki, and get the swing in direct. There's Kyle's Cyberjar, which is just such a strong card. Like, it can just swing games. We do eventually figure out the banish command, by the way. Just bear with us for a few episodes while we do this manually. So out of those, I revealed one monster. Now, so did he, and mine is bigger. But would probably have preferred more than one monster. I think I'm just going to swing over his Ryukushin, lose my Dust Tornado, set a few, probably using Confiscation here. I know some of the cards in his hand, but not all of them. I think I get rid of a Gravekeeper Servant, just so he can't stack 3 on me.
Hello.
Yeah. The Summon Skull in the hand there isn't really that big of a deal. As long as I can keep running over his monsters, it won't hit the field. There's the second Gravekeeper Servant. Crass Clown. He's going to Ground Collapse. I think we have a discussion again about the ruling for Ground Collapse. The tokens are actually just representing the zones that I can't use. They're not actually tokens. It's more of a visual reminder for us. I'm going to rush recklessly to get over his clown that's equipped with Nuzzler. Swinging for 18. And I think he's officially out of monsters. You can see the Karibo in my hand there. He just happens to be just big enough combined with Sky Scout to kill Kyle. And doing this made him so salty for the next game. Like, it's probably for the best that I'm commentating over the original audio. So I think it was mostly just me talking regardless. There's the Karibo for the finishing touch. We're going into game 2 with a very salty Cyclops. I am just now noticing that his icon is Ojama Green, who only has one eye. Opening up double Gravekeeper Servant is a pain in the butt, especially when I'm sitting there with a Magic Drain in hand. And a Messenger of Peace. Which, there's a point where I think he just gets to the point where he wants to end, or he just wants to, like, not have it there anymore, and just doesn't pay the 100 and sends it. I don't know if that's actually how that ruling works. He's gonna pot of greed, draw 2 more. That Dream Clown's just staring me in the face. Of course, I have the Fissure in hand that can deal with it, which is what it's gonna do. The Prohibition, if I remember right, I sided it in to specifically call Gravekeeper Servant. And I'm not going to lie, I don't remember what I ended up calling instead. Because calling Gravekeeper Servant wouldn't really have done anything at this point. Like, I know against Josh, I can, or against Caleb, I can call Dragumo. Against Josh, I can call stuff like Monster Reborn or Pot of Greed. Yeah, there he just kind of lets it go. I'm just using Barrel Dragon's effect every turn to try to get rid of the monster that he's setting. You might see me stop flipping after 2 tails because you need 2 heads. So there's no real point in flipping the 3rd coin. Darkfire Soldier's going to come in. And here's where it really comes in, where I'm like, if I'm going to be milling 2 for every attack, I want to be doing damage. And, like, right there, it didn't really mean anything because he had Enchanted Javelin, which in this case is essentially a negate attack for a single monster. But whether it's like Raigeki to clear his field, Dark Hole to clear the entire field, Tribute to the Doomed, Fissure, whatever it takes, I want an empty board on his side so that I can do as much damage as possible. There's his copy of Dark Elf, which I think this is the only episode that Dark Elf has actually seen. Could be wrong. Don't quote me. We use Barrel Dragon to try to clear the Dark Elf. And fail. Tribute to the Doomed, I think it's used here. Pitching the Cyber Jar. Because I'm not trying to give him extra monsters. But this is essentially game. I think it leaves him with a little bit of life. 34 and 26, yeah. I think it leaves him with like 100. So I end up taking Pharaoh's Servant. I'm just going to be milling a lot of cards here. Which again, we figure out like the mill and banish commands eventually. He's going to get one last draw, and it's just not going to be enough. So, yeah. So he's going to set a monster, pass it back, and I'm just going to Dark Hole the field. And normal summon and swing for game. It's a little bit of overkill, but I'd rather that than swinging into a potential like Cyber Jar or something that can prolong the game even further. At this point, I'm just waiting for him to send his monster to the graveyard, which was a white magical hat. Normal summon Sky Scout, swing for game. And with that being said, I will see everybody in the next episode.